This afternoon, I'm going to be interviewing and speaking with Joe Mooy and Patricia Cockerell of the Women's Meditation Circle in Sarasota. Welcome, Joe and Patricia.
Oh, it's wonderful to have us. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we start with the interview, we're going to go over the essential building blocks of peace. Our first one, achieving and maintaining our own inner peace through whatever path we choose. Acceptance of all people as part of our one human family. Respect for all cultures as valuable creations of humanity, including art, music, language, and literature. Respect for and an understanding of all religions. A system of justice and laws based on respect for all people that protects the world's citizens from corporate, governmental, or religious abuse. Equality of men and women in education and the workplace. An economic system based on doing the best for all people rather than a model of growth for the benefit of some and at the expense of others. And respect for the earth and the development of scientific knowledge of our environment. Okay, so that's our plan. And today we're going to be talking about meditation, but I think that we're also going to be talking about a lot of other aspects of this, because that first building block, achieving and maintaining your own inner peace through whatever path we choose, is our foundation. And that's where the meditation comes in. So, Joe, can you tell me a little bit about yourself before we get into the...
Well, I was 30 years in the corporate world working for IBM, and after I retired, I moved to Sarasota, and arriving here, there was a call and a draw to Sarasota. There was a feeling about the community. It had an energy vibration that was harmonious, peaceful, not just the art and the music world, but a spiritual resonance as well.
I guess I felt that too. I came down here, 30 years ago, and felt, there wasn't any place else that I, wanted. Now, I live in Northport now, but it's, do a lot of things in Sarasota, but Northport has a really, we've got common grounds and WKDW.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I was thinking about the ideals that you mentioned at the start of the program, and those ideals ought to be front and center in every community, in every school, in government buildings. We have so much... we're fraught with disagreements about religion mixing with politics, but this is truly a set of ideals for the future.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm doing the program, because we need to understand and respect each other. That's the only way we're going to be able to have peace. We can't have this feeling of the us and them. And that's so prevalent in our society, that there's the good group of people, or our, I hate to say it, but our like-minded friends. And we associate with our like-minded friends. But we really need to get outside of that. We need to go and develop friendships with people who don't agree with us, and so that we can understand them and they can understand us. And that's the only way we can do it. That's the only way we can learn to respect each other.
Right. As we were driving down here, I told Patricia about a article I read from Fareed Zakaria over the weekend, and he talked about liberals failing themselves by not reaching across the aisle.
Right. And the thing is that, if you're liberal, one of the things about that is that you're should be accepting of people.
Precisely.
Well, does that exclude Republicans? That's kind of a silly, and I agree with what you're saying there. Yeah. Okay, so you came down here, and how did the Women's Meditation Circle come about?
Well, I arrived here right before New Year's, and I had a few friends here, and they said, we should do a house blessing at your home. So when would you like to do it? The house was pretty much empty. I had a few cardboard boxes.
Okay, this was at your new house.
At the new house in Sarasota. And they came over. I said, let's do it on the full moon. And that was January 14th, 2006. 8 women gathered in the house, and we did a house blessing. We did a meditation. We had a little potluck. And after that, there was such a sense of interconnectedness and a feeling of, I don't want this to stop. Not just me, but all the women that were present. So someone suggested, could we do this again? And I said, why not? So we did it in February. And by March, it had grown. It started with 8 women. By March, it was up to about 20 women. And word of mouth, it took off from there. And within, what would you say, Patricia, a couple of years?
Well, we were outgrowing the private homes by the middle of 2007. So that was only about 18 months.
Wow. Usually organizations don't grow so quickly.
It was a much needed thing in the community. People are hungry for spirituality, and they are not hungry so much for dogma. And that's what they're being offered primarily in so many of the traditional, let's say, religions. And I don't mean to demean religion in any way. I'm just saying that we have a large community of people who tell us that this is their religion. This is their place that they go. Now it's twice a month that they go for spiritual succor.
Yeah, I've been to several of your meetings, and it's always been wonderful. And I've played the harp there.
Yes, you did.
A couple of times, I think.
Right. And the invitation is always out there for you to come back and play the harp. So by 2008, as Patricia said, we had outgrown the homes. I mean, we were then up to 40 women coming, and we needed a bigger space. And we were traveling to California, and we got a phone call from Rising Tide saying that David Less was offering us Rising Tide as a home for the women's meditations.
Okay. And Rising Tide is the Sufi Center in Sarasota that's on, what is
Swift.
Swift Road, right. Okay, yes.
So by then we were up to, we coordinated the meditations near the full and the new moons, and we've been at Rising Tide ever since. And on any given Friday, we could seat as many as 80 to 90 women for the meditation.
And that's on every Friday night, is that? No, every other?
Twice a month.
Twice a month, okay.
Closest to the new moon and the full moon.
Okay, and so I've never understood that. Why? Why did you choose the moon cycle?
The moon cycle is, do you want to answer that,
Sure.
Patricia?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. The moon being the feminine aspect of the spiritual, the sun being the male aspect of that.
So it ties into the women meditation.
And this is a women's meditation. Originally, it was once a month on the full moon, but people wanted more. So we decided we will place it with the 2 moons, with the full moon and the new moon, which are 2 different energies. The new moon is the gathering energy. That's when you want to plant your garden, is in the new moon. And at the full moon, it is more like the completion. And so those 2 energies tend to be at the fore.
Where does that come from? That, what you're talking about, the energy?
Oh, lots of traditions use the moon as a focal point, especially in the old matrilineal type of cultures.
Like the
but Celtic would be an example.
That's what I was thinking. Yes. Yeah, the natural type of
Wiccan today would do it. Yes,
okay.
And Stonehenge, as an example of an older culture, they have stones that represent, is it the 18-year cycle of the moon, each stone? And in order to have placed those stones, they've had to study the moon for a long time, because even when it rises and sets and the phase of the moon is changing, it is not in the same place in the sky. Start tracking it yourself, just watch it, and it takes, for it to repeat, it takes 18 years. Wow. So they had these different, they're smaller stones. The blue stone, I believe, is what they're called, the small ones. So it's quite an old concept.
Right.
And the fact that we are a women's group, we tie to the moon.
Okay. So this is going back to the very ancient European natural cultures that I don't know that they worshipped, but it's based on the feeling of the earth and nature, that type of thing.
Their cycles were really tied, as you said, to the nature cycles, but not just to the moon and not just to the sun, but the movement of the planets. And you mentioned earlier Celts. I mean, these are pre-Neolithic. They go back 11,000 BC. So ancient humans had the capability of measuring and following the transit of the planets and something like the moon, and arranging their calendars and their life cycles around that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That what you're doing is kind of based on that, but I don't feel that it is limited by that. I think that you've brought other things in. I know I was there once where there was a Buddhist monk lady that she's the monk in resident at the Buddhist temple in Sarasota.
Yes.
And so you tie in other things as well.
We open eclectically to all traditions and all religions. We range from shamanic practitioners to, as you said, the Buddhist resident nun, to
we've had Christian ministers, we've had Jewish rabbis. Okay. So it's across the board. And you have them do
like a program or meditation?
They lead the meditation of their choice.
Oh, okay.
The meditation leader, it's completely up to them what they will lead, what they will do. The only, let's say, parameters that we put around it is we like to have the women out of there by 8:30. Some of them have rides, different things, but yes, so they have a clock. But other than that, it's whatever they're called to do. And I believe that that's one of the reasons that our meditation group has continued for so many years and has grown throughout that period. It's not one thing.
Okay.
It's very
so you
open.
have different speakers or leaders come in each time, and you draw from many different traditions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's really neat. And so your basis, your kind of foundation, is on the natural cycle. So you're building on that.
Our calendar is built on the natural cycle of the moon, and
a woman's body is also. Isn't it? It's called a moon cycle in older traditions. So yes. So again, it all ties into this being a women's group.
Okay.
And the moon is very focal in that. Yeah. But probably most meditations aren't focused on the moon, although that does happen.
Yeah, and I know you meet at the beach quite a bit.
Ceremonies. We honor, as I said, the various cycles, the calendar cycles that the ancestors did. Today it's called the changing of the seasons, but in ancient time, it was known as the equinoxes and the solstices.
Mm-hmm.
So we do ceremony on the beach those 4 times a year. And in the summer, we move, starting in May, we move to the beach and we have meditations in a circle at South Lido Beach twice a month. Okay. And that takes place from the first new moon of May, and it goes until September.
Okay, you're talking about Friday evenings.
Friday evenings.
What time would that be at?
Again, tied to the movement of the sun. It could be 7 o'clock. It could be 7:30.
Okay, so you're talking about around sunset?
Yes, around sunset.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, neat. That sounds really neat. Patricia.
And that is run by Carol Randacci is hosting the summer sessions. Joe and I will show up when we can, but we usually take the summer off for ourselves. Okay. That's when we do our research and put together our programs for the following winter. And so I really want to give a call out to Carol Wentz Randacci, who does do that, lead it for us in the summer.
That's neat. Yeah, cool. Now, this program is about peace.
Yes.
And I saw on your Facebook page, Joe, that your political view, you had listed global unity.
Yes.
Okay. So now, how does meditation tie in, or what you're doing with the Women's Meditation Circle? Do you see that as tying in with peace?
Most definitely. We, first of all, by being eclectic in the leaders that we select,
yes,
no one is left by the wayside. It's all encompassing.
So you're actually that one of my points here, respect for and an understanding of all religions.
Yes.
You are providing an opportunity for your women to experience themselves in your circle,
yes,
these other religions, so they have some understanding, and that's certainly a wonderful way of building peace, to have an understanding of what people believe and how they go about doing things. So that's great.
Yeah. The other thing is, from the very beginning, we had a mission statement, and that mission statement for the Women's Meditation Group is the raising of human consciousness.
Okay.
And meditation is a foundation practice in the raising of human consciousness. In the act of meditating itself, it is a quieting of the rampant, crazy monkey mind thoughts that go.
Yeah. Our inner voice that doesn't ever stop.
Exactly. And we generally end our meditations with a Buddhist mantra, calling out, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy, and may all beings find peace.
Right.
So we begin with the raising of human consciousness on behalf of the global community. And everything we do between those two spots is the fill-in, if you will.
Okay, so that's your framework. So your meditations are guided meditations?
Generally.
Okay.
But not all of them. Some of them, when you came last December, it was a kirtan with...
with Cheryl Chaffee.
Cheryl Chaffee and Barbara Gale did the drumming, and you were on harp. So, as I said, this is very eclectic. You know, the kirtan can come out of
That's Hindu.
The Hindu tradition.
Yeah. And what we were doing was chanting on the Hindu prayers, and that's something that is for me, it's just a lot of fun.
Yes.
But when you kind of get into it a little bit, you understand that this chanting is essentially connecting with the spirit.
Yes.
And you get past any of the dogma, and it has its roots in yoga. Mm-hmm. It's a form of yoga, bhakti yoga, the way of worshipful yoga, and
devotion.
So the devotional music. So that doing that helps people to understand a little bit about people who are from the Hindu background and how they worship. So,
and doing the chanting also can invoke a meditation, an altered state of consciousness.
Oh, absolutely.
So, bringing these types of offerings forward allows the women to experience a very broad range.
Right. So this is an interfaith type of thing.
It could be called that.
Yes. I would really classify
it's interfaith, but overlaying the interfaith is something I call universal spirituality.
Okay.
And
well, I think that's kind of what we look for when we're doing interfaith.
Right.
Is I used to do ocean interfaith, and what my purpose was to bring have readings from a lot of different scriptures and tie them in together, and so that you saw that thread of unity mm-hmm. through there. Yeah. So that's really cool. So let's see. I wanted to talk about. Let's see. I've got some things that I want to just read. Yogi Bhajan, who introduced Kundalini Yoga to the United States. He said, when he was asked, why is meditation essential? He said, by meditating, we take out our garbage. So that's something.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. Richard Rohr, who was a Christian author of Immortal Diamond, said, we are made for transcendence and endless horizons, but our small ego usually gets in the way until we become aware of its petty preoccupations and eventually seek a deeper truth. It is like mining for a diamond. We must dig deep and yet seem reluctant, even if afraid to do so. So again, we're looking for that deep connection with the inner spirit.
Right.
Okay. The Buddhist chant, Om Mani Padme the jewel is in the center of the lotus. So if we are the lotus, we are mining for that jewel, or as Richard Rohr said, for that diamond that is within us. And so meditation helps to bring that out. And when we spend some time in our meditative state, then we can get in touch with that inner part of ourselves.
Right.
Right.
If I could just interject, it can be as simple as just taking time out from the madness of the world.
Yes.
When you think about a child that's misbehaving and parents that give that child a timeout, in other words, sit down and be quiet, it's a similar thing for our own minds is going insane with what we read, and we are bombarded today.
Yes.
It's not like when you had to wait for the Pony Express to come and find out what's going on. We get it moment by moment, and if we don't consciously step back and take a bit of silence for ourselves, we will go over the edge. And that's what meditation, to me, it's beyond the first step to the deepness is you have got to find a basic bit of peace within, and you cannot do that with your mind running wild. So we have to take a time out for ourselves, because if we are going to see peace in the world, it has to begin within.
It has to start with
us. And we can't hear the peace, which is our fundamental nature is peace.
Right.
We can't find that with all the clatter and the chatter within our own minds.
Yeah.
So on a most basic level for me, that's where meditation begins. It creates that silence and that stillness so that I can recognize that my nature is peace. Then I have a foundation from which I can go forward and allow that peace to radiate out from me.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
That's how we're able to handle the world. Yeah, we have so much input. We hear about, as you were saying, we hear about things going on the other side of the world that in the past we wouldn't know about. And yet they come into our consciousness as they're happening and can really upset us. And so meditation can help us to handle that without reacting ourselves, because a lot of we can't really do anything about things that are happening, and we feel powerless, and it can be upsetting. So there's being able to recognize our spiritual center, however we see that and connect up to that and feel that inner peace is really important. The Baha'i writings say, "Turn thy sight unto thyself, that thou mayest find me standing within thee, mighty, powerful, and self-subsisting." And Yogananda says, "Remain calm, serene, always in command of yourself. You will then find out how easy it is to get along."
Yes.
I like that. That how easy it is to get along. So if we're in the grocery store, and we've seen some of these things happen in the news, people standing in line getting upset with each other, and if we can have that inner peace and learn to be accepting of each other through that, and see if we have that inner peace and see each other, see ourselves as spiritual beings and see other people as spiritual beings, we can be accepting of all people.
Exactly.
And when we're in the grocery store, don't yell at anybody.
Yeah.
You know? And it's amazing that people can lose it so easily. And then we have situations of road rage, where people's emotions of the day are just out of control. And meditation helps to control that. It helps us to be in touch with that peaceful center of ourselves.
It begs the question, and maybe for your listeners, as to how many people do have a practice of meditation. In a way, we're sitting here talking to each other, which is like talking,
or
preaching,
like-minded friends.
Like-minded friends, excuse me, or preaching to the choir. When you go to the grocery store, even having the practice,
right,
and executing that practice, it can still be a challenge. We're still humans having this human experience, and it is chaotic energy.
I think it
around
makes us less reactive, though, and that's what Pema Chodron talks about, not letting ourselves get hooked into this reactivity that we tend to have. Mm-hmm. Let me just take a second out here for station identification. This is Margaret Germain on Building Peace here on WKDW Radio, 97.5 FM here in Northport, Florida, and KDWradio.com. And we are here interviewing Joe Mooy and Patricia Cockrell of the Women's Meditation Circle, which meets in Sarasota. Welcome back, Joe and Patricia.
Thank you, Margaret.
All right, so we're talking about meditation and its influence on inner peace and world peace. We were just talking about our day-to-day lives and how we go through our lives and trying not to react to things that can upset us. People can call us names, can be mean, and, where are we? Where is our spiritual center? Can we take a deep breath and say, that's okay, and not be so reactive, and maybe take a non-emotional stand on something. It's not so much letting yourselves be abused or injustices, but reacting in a way that's more calm and peaceful.
I think we're less likely to react if we have a regular practice.
Yes.
First of all, that creates a space within us that we can do that. But sometimes something comes up.
Yes.
And it's very
it doesn't make
powerful.
Us perfect.
Correct.
Yes.
But there are little things that you can do to help you get back onto center before you react or before you open your mouth. And one simple thing is to take 3 conscious breaths when something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that is usually enough. It's similar to counting to 10, but consciously breathing has an immediate effect because the breath is a very powerful meditation tool. And most of the Eastern traditions teach following the breath as one of their most basic primary meditations. Yeah. It's something that's with all of us. Focusing on the breath tends to calm it down and slow it down, and a slower breath brings that peace once again. So having a regular practice creates a space within us and the ability to do better out in the world. But when something comes up, have a fallback position, and 3 conscious breaths is an excellent one.
That's a really good thing to do, and you can do that at any time.
Anytime.
Yes. Okay. I just want to read something about an experiment that was done in 1978, and quantum physicist John Hagelin talks about this. He says that with the use of medication, that there would be a radiated influence of peace that would affect the behavior of people throughout society. People would wake up in the morning and they would decide, hey, I don't think I have to go out and kill anyone today. What a novel thought. That with some expanded comprehension, with a less narrowly cramped, less narrowly self-centered, acutely stressed vision, that those desperate acts of terrorism simply don't have a fertile field to fall on. Now, what happened, I'm sure you're aware of this. In 1978, there was an experiment conducted. 7,000 individuals gathered to meditate over a course of 3 weeks to hopefully alter their community in a positive way. The participants were able to lower suicide rates and automobile accidents, but they also lowered acts of war and terrorism by an impressive 72% during that period. An experiment conducted in the early 80s during the height of the Lebanon war sought to discover whether meditation could reduce war. When 1,000 people in Jerusalem meditated on world peace, war deaths in Lebanon went down by over 75%. Not only did war deaths go down, but crime, traffic collisions, fires, and other destructive events also went down on the days the group meditated. From this and other similar studies that showed that war deaths and injuries went down on days group meditations were meditating on peace, scientists reluctantly concluded that group meditation seems to prevent war. In reporting on these unexpected findings, world-renowned physicist John Hagelin, PhD, commented, "There is far more evidence that group meditation can turn off war like a light switch than that aspirin reduces headaches. It is a scientific fact." That's when I read that, I followed that whole story about that, and this is an experiment that was repeated over and over, and they have seen similar results. Okay, one funny thing came to my mind while I was reading that this time. those 1,000 people, maybe they were the ones that were doing those acts of violence. No. No, unless that was the case, then this, and we know that that wasn't the case, that the practice of a group of people meditating has an effect on the world.
Right.
That has an effect on world peace. So when you come together and you do your meditation, you are not just changing the way these women feel about themselves and what's going on in that room there. You are actually generating a positive energy field that affects other people in the world. You're raising the standard of the collective consciousness of the world. That's pretty cool.
That you mentioned quantum physics. We live. Most of the universe is invisible. In the classes and the retreats that Patricia and I teach, we spend a lot of time on quantum physics, and we refer to it as that invisible area is known as the field. When groups come together in a specific consciousness, there is a measurable change in the atmosphere and if you will, an etheric creation occurs, which later becomes a physical, what we call physical reality. Just last year, James Twyman took a group of about 100 people to Jerusalem. This was during the fighting going on between Syria and Jordan. They climbed up to a hill on the border of Syria, and they began to pray for peace. The bullets had been flying, and in the period of the time that they did their meditation, the bullets stopped.
Wow.
And all manner of hostility subsided and stayed that way for about a day, I believe it was. It is measurable, and in the field, in that quantum field, is where reality can be not just manipulated, but actually created. That's the quantum field. And all of us live in that field. We are of that field. And the reality that we perceive and believe it to be, so it is.
Okay, so now some people would say this is do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But really, what you're talking about is science.
It's science.
And back, 50 years ago, we could say do-do-do-do, but we have evidence now. There have been studies and things have been proven that what we see in physical reality is the projection of the spiritual
beliefs. Right. Core beliefs, what you've learned by your parents, and what you traditionally reinforce. And if you want to change that reality, change what you believe.
Right.
And, it's a practice that we have. We have to remind each other, because we are in an electronically connected world. And we have to be conscious of what we're doing, what we're tuning into, who we hang out with, and what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that takes work. It's not something, even with the consciousness that we keep reinforcing and training, it does take work.
So tell me about your retreats. I know you do, and there's something that you call tribes. I don't really, I know you've got different tribes, and I know those come out of the retreats, but explain
7
that.
years ago, some women in the Women's Meditation Circle wanted to take the studies a little bit further. So we created a retreat, and we did a 3-day retreat at Dayspring in Ellington, and 30 women showed up for it. And they came back the next year, they came back the third year, came back the third year, and other women heard about it and said, we want to go too. And
so that first group was going back each year.
And there was no room at the inn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we said, okay, we'll start a second group.
Okay.
And the second group came, and they came back the next year, and other people said, I want to go, and they can't get into it. So now they're tribes. Okay. And the first group
is Tribe 1.
Tribe 1. The second group is Tribe 2. The third group is Tribe 3. There's a Tribe 4, and there's a new group starting in January. That's Tribe 5.
So I would imagine that a 3-day workshop like this would really, these people would become very close.
Very close. And that's the heart of the let's call it the tribe, because they bond so closely. They're spending 3 days in, there's lecture, meditation, and a practice. Lecture, meditation, and a practice. And all of it is tied to spirituality and science, quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And they become very bonded. Okay. And
so you've got the lecture, and you're talking about what you're talking about now with quantum physics and stuff like that. Then the meditation would be a guided meditation?
Yes.
And then the practice would be an individual silent meditation?
No.
No? What is the practice?
The practice is something that is a practical application of the lecture. For instance, we're talking about how interconnected we are with everything.
Okay.
All right. And there would be a practice, as an example, to go out in nature and just breathe in the idea of I am, and breathe out that. It was a very simple practice. It was one of the most powerful. Many of the women said that was the most powerful thing for me, because no matter what they were looking at, they had a connection, whether it was a tree, an insect, a bird, the pond.
Okay, so you were becoming that.
Yes.
You were, yes.
Okay.
And they, many of them had powerful experiences, but that's just one example.
That reminds me of Thich Nhat Hanh and
exactly
the love for the earth. Mm-hmm. And we can get into talking about the environment from that, because if you are that connected to the earth and the spirit that flows through everything, can you really abuse the earth and the environment?
Exactly.
The point of the retreats and the practices is to reinvigorate the idea that we are all one being.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the biggest lesson to learn. There's no them. There's only the I am having an experience and a presence. And when you become that, separation starts to dissolve.
Yeah, my theme song that you haven't, I don't know if you've heard it. It's if it's peace you want, there can be no us and them.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah. That's,
precisely.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're taking now. I have a question, and I don't know what your answer is on this, but to me, when you see the connectedness and that we are all one and the spirit of life through everything, do you eat animals?
No.
You don't? You're vegan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Vegetarian.
Okay.
I think too. I mean, was it Yogananda that said go to breatharianism?
To truly, I mean, you can take this down to the minutest level.
Right. You can't really.
Yeah. Right. And in fact, vegetables are alive.
Yes. And sometimes I feel bad eating
exactly.
when I get some beautiful head of cabbage, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. It's a shame to eat it. But what's going to happen to it?
So how is that really different than eating an animal?
It's the consciousness.
Well, they have run experiments and have proved that plants are aware of the energy in the room when and they did these.
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Right.
Yeah.
And where they have cut another plant violently, and the other plants registered fear. I have to ask how.
Okay, but now, are you, Patricia? Are you vegan?
No.
Okay.
And nor am I even truly a vegetarian. I'm a pescatarian. I eat fish. But that is primarily for health reasons, and on my part, I try to be respectful of my food. And before I eat, I always bless my food, and in gratitude for it. I had a guru many years ago, Audley Allison, and his quote was, "Life feeds on life." So. For me, no, I'm not a vegetarian, and I try to buy organic. I try to buy free range because our corporate farms are very heartless and cruel, and whether it's plants or whether it's animals, it's really done in a very mindless way instead of mindfully. Yeah. So. It's really hard. Yeah. I don't make a judgment on, eat what you want, but try to eat consciously and try to eat mindfully with respect and with gratitude for what it is. You have been given food for your body that your body might be healthy and live well. So that's the only thing I put around it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've talked quite a bit on this program about global warming and climate change, and there is a strong connection to the animal agriculture industry with that.
Right.
And so, for one of the things that I've been vegan for 5 years, but it started with health, and then it's kind of cool how it turns out that your health and the cruelty of animals and the environment are all tied in together.
True.
That if we can eliminate more of the animal agriculture, that the planet will be healthier. So it is. That's where the connection of it, to me, that's a proof of the connection of, if we are doing these horrible things to animals, it's coming back on us. And I'm reading a book now, The World Peace Diet, and it talks about the violence of what happens when you ingest animals that have been killed violently, that you're building your body with violence then. And it's better to build your body with healthful, peaceful food, even though maybe the cabbage is not really happy about being eaten. That's a whole.
Who's to say? That's a very big topic. Probably a topic for a whole show, possibly. Yes, you're right. Animals, far as acre for acre, you could feed the entire. You can feed the entire world. We have enough to produce plant, but not enough to feed the animals that would.
Yes, it takes so much more to feed the animals.
Just the math,
right? Yes, and the water also.
Yeah, I should say that. I personally don't do well with meat, so I never eat it. But if it doesn't require much animal protein to be a healthy person anyway. If you choose to be a person that eats that.
It really doesn't even,
Yes.
We tend to eat more protein than we really need to. I did do a show with Amy and Rick, Be Green with Amy.
Oh, there you go.
About, the vegan lifestyle and all that, and we talked about that. Okay. Let's see. We're going to be running out of time in a little bit. How about if we kind of, sum up this whole women's meditation circle thing, and tell us a little bit about. You have a website, how people can get a hold of you, and all that.
The website is www.starsoundings.com, and
www.starsoundings.com.
star
STAR
soundings
soundings.com. Okay.
And on the website, they can sign up for the newsletters, which talk about it. The newsletter, there's one big newsletter comes out every beginning of every month, and it's spiritual news, it's meditation news, and updates on things happening in the Southwest Florida community. Mm-hmm. And Patricia leads a healing network, about 65 people who join in for those in need, and she sends out notifications of those in need.
I know that's been proven to really have a positive effect on people.
We've had some miraculous stories.
Yeah.
As a result of the healers of a request going out.
Yeah.
So, if I saw something the other day about meditation, and the ideal is if you can treat your whole life as a meditation practice, whether you're walking, whether you're taking a shower, whether you're having breakfast. As Patricia said, there's a consciousness around the food. We bless the food before we eat. I mean, we may sit on the lanai and just early in the morning, listening to the birds, watching the flowers growing in silence and appreciation for that which is around. That's a meditation.
Right. Yes, I agree. I go out on my bike. That's a meditation.
Yeah. Walking on the beach.
Yes.
Anything that will bring you to a state of inner calm or inner peace, whatever that may be for you.
Yeah.
And the Women's Meditation Circle has expanded. I mean, we're almost 500 women now.
Wow.
And the intent is the doors are open, and we'll keep going till it's just the two of us.
Okay, that's exciting, and congratulations for your success on this. This is I know that's a big undertaking, and you're doing great with it. Well, thank you for being guests on my show.
Thank you for having
us.
Yes, okay.
It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Margaret Germain, and this is Building Peace here on WKDW Radio, 97.5 FM in Northport and KDWradio.com. Signing off, and have an amazing day.
Thank you.